Goodness. All right, so I guess we're live already,
Well,
right?
yeah,
So hello, welcome everyone. My name is Selby. I'm a GMAT Club moderator, and today we're going to be having yet another GMAT Club debrief. For those of y'all who don't know, we already had one yesterday with Evan and John scored a 770 in his first attempt. Today we have Hans Anthony, who's recently scored a 760 on his GMAT. And he also posted a wonderful debrief on the forum as well. I guess, Hans, your GMAT
yeah,
Club forum name is Hans95, right?
right, yeah,
Right. So yeah, we're excited to talk to you. Please do introduce yourself to everyone.
yeah. Thank you, Sylvie, for that. So my name is Hans Anthony, and I am an engineering graduate, one of the most overrepresented pool Indian male engineer. So yeah, I did my engineering from NIT Calicut. I'm a civil engineering graduate actually, and but I've been working in the pharma consulting domain for the past 4 years actually,
Mhm.
and now I plan to go into the US for my master's, my MBA. So that is the reason why I got into the whole GMAT, and yeah, now I'm
I
here.
see. I see. That's nice. I
Yeah,
saw that you took your GMAT like 4 times and you scored
yeah,
more than 700 in all 4 attempts. Before I
right,
ask you what made you even want to take it again and again, let's
yeah,
start from like the beginning before your
yeah.
first attempt. What all happened?
Mhm.
How long did it take to prepare for your GMAT exam? Do tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, sure, sure. So yeah, I started off, I think, back in March actually, when the COVID first wave was kind of dying down, and we were all thinking that we were getting back to normal. So I was
Mhm.
kind of hoping that I'll be able to get it to this year, and I'll be able to do a good job in GMAT, and get into a college by the next year, 2022. So that was the
Mhm.
plan. That's when I started off back in March. Then yeah, as all of you know, the second wave kind of hit, and like things got real bad real soon.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had to take a break for a couple of months, like around April, May, and then I started off again in June. So
Mhm.
in terms of my preparation, I had started off actually by using. It was mostly self prep. Did not get into any tutoring or anything like that.
Mhm.
So I was mostly working with uh, the Magoosh materials. Like I had taken a premium bundle of Magoosh actually, a 1 year package, and I started off with that.
Mhm.
And to be frank, Magoosh is a pretty very extensive material, and you have good content in that for both quant and verbal, and even for AWA and IR. All of
Mhm.
those which help me a lot, to be frank, especially the quant, AW, and IR. I have not actually referenced any other material, but as most of us Indians, or as most of us non English speakers, we have these issues with the verbal section. So I
Yeah.
was kind of struggling in the verbal side of things, and I had to put in that extra effort in verbal. So the GMAT club's very own GMAT Ninja videos helped me a lot. I was trying to follow the videos and all the tutorials that were there in the GMAT club forum. So that was one other part of material that I prepared with.
Mhm.
And then finally, obviously, there is a GMAT club that was helping me out a lot with all those questions in the forum. And yeah, I was mostly concentrating on the official guide questions, but still, all the explanations from the various experts, all of
Mhm.
that helped me out a lot. So that was one other material that I used. And
Mhm.
finally, to actually, so like I said in the beginning, like sentence correction was something that I was really weak at. So there is this one material of Manhattan GMAT that is the sentence correction guide. I think it's very popular.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that I took out my time and actually just went full-fledged preparation for sentence correction alone. And that is how I took the last couple of attempts. Before that, I actually sat down and just worked on the sentence correction questions only. And yeah,
Mhm.
so these were various materials that I use for preparation. And yeah, it took me around five, I think, out of 6 months to get to my target score. So like I started off maybe in June. Yeah. So June to September, October, yeah,
So six
around five.
months to get 760, or 6 months to get your first test
No, no,
score?
760. No, no. So I
Seven.
started, yeah, I started writing. My first attempt was back in July actually. So I took it.
Mhm.
I was actually taking one attempt every month. I didn't plan for it, but it kind of turned out like that. July, August, September, and October. So yeah, so I took out one attempt almost every month, and yeah, finally, in the couple of weeks back, I got to that target score. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's
So it
regarding the
was,
materials I used. Yeah.
mhm. So it was like 2 or 3 months that you took for your initial attempt, right? Am I
Yeah, a
correct?
couple of months, right? Yeah.
Couple
So
of
I
months.
went through. So the first attempt was majorly like this. So I went through Magoosh material, and
Mm-hmm.
then I worked on a few Gmat Ninja videos and everything that helped me out a bit, and then the Gmat club questions. So not but a cursory ones. Like I didn't uh, actually put in that extra effort that I needed to put in for verbal. I was kind of feeling slightly overconfident, to be frank. So yeah, that part. Then I went in and wrote it because so to be frank, I was fairly confident about quant actually. So I was, I knew that I was kind of good in math and I could do well in quant. So that is something that I was confident about. And the whatever tips and there was no a lot of formula driven things that are there in the Magoosh material, but whatever uh, things that they had mentioned in their website and their materials were pretty well formed, and that guided me a lot in that aspect. So quant was pretty strong for me in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the verbal was the one that I needed working on. So the first attempt I took back in July with a couple of months of prep. That's what happened. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people take more than 2 or 3 months to even get a 720. So, like, kudos
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
like, what happened afterwards? Like, you got to say out 3 more times. Like, I find that really shocking.
So yeah, like I said in the beginning, right, Selby. So this whenever I talk to any consultants or anybody, they keep mentioning that Indian engineers is a very overrepresented pool, and you have
Yeah,
to have that cutting edge score to actually get there. So the
yeah,
first time I got a 720, I was that was again a GMAT online attempt, and it had a lot of technical issues. Like that was
yeah.
back in July, and people were all new to it, and the enhanced GMAT just came out, if I think a month or so back. So yeah, people were just getting adopted to it, and I saw that like I faced a lot of issues that time around as well. Like I couldn't. I click next, it doesn't move forward, and things like that kept on happening. But I didn't know that at that point that it was a not my internet issue, and it was actually a system issue. So that was something that I was unaware of,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that was kind of a shock the first time I am attempting. And then I knew for a fact that with that setting, if I could get a 720, I may be able to do better in a
Yeah.
sender setting. So that's why I went for the second attempt. Then when I
Mm-hmm.
got into the second attempt, I prepared a bit more, and I thought, maybe I can level up a bit. But I got the 730. The target was 740 Selby, so I couldn't get that, and I just kind of kept pushing and pushing. So that's what happened.
I
Yeah.
mean, for those who don't know, so Hans scored a 720 with a breakdown of
Mhm.
Q50 and a V37. Then
Mhm.
you took the test again a month later, scored a 730 with a Q50 and V40. Then you took the
Yes.
test again and scored a 730.
Yeah.
And then last attempt a 760. So for someone who scored a 730 and another 730, how did you
That
like
was
stay motivated and like, I mean,
yeah,
what
that
made
was actually that
yeah,
was actually a big bummer. Actually, the third attempt was kind of like the big roadblock. So because I was genuinely hoping that I would score better, because I
yeah.
had given an official mock before that, and I got I think 770 or something, and I was like, super pumped up and really confident that I'm going to ace this one. But yeah, there were a lot of other issues. That's one thing I wanted to point out. Like that day kind of turned out to be really crappy for me actually. Like I could sleep only for like 3 hours. I think around 4 hours, and like that is never recommended for, on the day of a GMAT exam. And I had to travel like a couple of hours to the center, so that again took a toll. Then by the time I reached the center only, I was kind of bummed out, and I was feeling a bit down. And I actually think that really affected my performance because I honestly thought that I was going to do better. And like with the third attempt, I think most of my friends and family, they were kind of, you've given it three times. I think it's time to give up. Like you got a 730 again, so that means you might have plateaued out. But I kind of felt that, I didn't give a genuine third attempt. Like that's what kind of motivated me. Like with all the issues on the day and traveling and all that, I felt that, I didn't give a genuine third attempt. And like
Mm.
honestly, my dad kind of motivated me. He was like, if you only can give it, like there is nothing that is stopping you. Anyways, you're going to spend so much more during your MBA. So this, $250 is
That's
actually
true.
yeah, pretty less compared to what you're going to spend over there. So if you get a good scholarship with a better score, that is definitely going to help you out, right? So yeah,
Mm.
like he definitely motivated me, and my mom also supported me. Obviously, like she didn't like they don't interfere with any of these things because I take the decision and they stick with it. So yeah, they help me out a lot. Like my dad kept on, like when I told 7:30, he's like, are you writing again? When I told 7:30, he's like, are you writing again? He was just keeping on asking that. Like, he never asked the like stop, or he didn't ask me to just be done with it. Like he kind
Yeah.
of kept me motivated. Yeah, so that helped me. Like, that I know that that is not a real situation that happens for everybody, but yeah, I was kind of fortunate for that to happen. And I had a good bunch of friends also, whom whenever I told them, like, I'm not happy with this, I want to give it again, they were also right, like, do till you are happy. Like,
Yeah.
it's all right. Like, these things happen. So I was kind of confident, and with all these kind of support system, it kind of worked out. Anyways, worked out well in the end. So that's why I'm here. Yeah.
No, but before, like, of course, I would like to discuss a bit more about, your online exam attempts because you had a lot to
Hmm.
say even in your
Right.
debrief in
Right.
the forum. But
Yeah.
before we talk more about that, like, I just want to know, like, first, how did you start off before even your first attempt? Did you take like any official mock tests? How was your
Hmm.
score
Yeah.
initially? What did you do to kind of bump it up?
God, yeah. So I'll start off with that. Yeah, Selby. So I'll start off with the first mock attempt actually. So I had covered the Magush materials, like especially the verbal one actually, because I
Yeah.
knew that that was my weak area, and I started off with that, and I covered it all up. And I was, fairly confident before giving the first official mock. I was like, I have aced the materials. I have covered all the different parts of speech. I know what it is right now and everything, and I'm going to do pretty well. But I scored a 660. I was like, oh my god, like I am really, I have a lot to improve. So there is something that's really drastically going wrong. Because like I said, it's pretty good in quant. So I still got a 49 in quant with a very minimal preparation for quant, which is I knew is a pretty good score because that I was kind of expecting, but the verbal score was 30. The one that I worked on for like a month or so, that was 30. So I was like, okay, there is a lot I have to improve, and there is something that I'm genuinely doing wrong. So that
Yeah.
is what I was pretty sure of,
Yeah.
because I thought I had prepared good enough, but something was going wrong. So then I started researching a bit more. I went into Gmat Club and tried to understand what are the different tips and all that, and even a few Magoosh blogs that helped me out a bit. So yeah, and I understood one of the biggest thing that I was doing wrong was the pacing part. I think all of now a lot of people might be aware of it, but at that point I was not. So pacing is, if one of the, if not most important thing that I feel is a part of GMAT, because you have to be up to pace, and you have to be able to do all the questions. Like, ideal scenario is you attempt all the 36 in verbal and 31 in quant. So that is how you should be doing it. So that is something that I realized later on. Actually,
Mm.
after the second mock also, like I gave a second mock, which also gave me like a 680 or so. So then I was like, there is something that is genuinely going wrong. Then I started. That's when I realized, the pacing part, and I started working on that. And then I thought, okay, now I have nailed the pacing down. So the one method that I followed is something that Magush had recommended, in which you break it down into sections. For quant, you break it down into section of 4 questions. Like, so each bunch of 4 questions you take 8 minutes, and you first only you write that down, like, you should finish up the fourth question within 54
Mm.
minutes remaining. So it'll
Mhm.
be like that, like 8 questions with 46 minutes remaining, and so on. So that's something that I always practice whenever I wrote a mock or anything. I wrote that down on the side. And same for even for verbal. So verbal,
Yeah.
it's a bunch of six. So 6 questions, you have to take 11 minutes. So six
Mhm.
questions. The first 6 questions you have to finish in 55. The next six, that is 12 at 44. So there were
Mhm.
benchmarks that I have to timing benchmarks of sorts that I have to keep. So I
Mhm.
kept writing that on the side, and I started working on that like that. And I
Mhm.
thought, now I'm there. Like I have overcome one big barrier, and I'll be reaching the top 730s and 740s right away and all that.
Yeah.
Still didn't happen. So
Uh-huh.
so I had taken all the just to give you an idea of the various mocks that I took. So I had taken the all the six official mocks. I
Mhm.
had taken the seven Veritas prep mocks. I had given a lot of mocks. So I've given
Before your first attempt or
no, before
during?
my first attempts, I had given four official
Okay.
and four Veritas, I guess. I had given a lot of mocks.
Oh wow.
So because I was kind of giving a mock almost a week or so. That's
Mhm.
what I was trying to do. Every week, I think a couple of weeks I did two mocks also. So because I when I realized that pacing is this important, I wanted to actually do it in real time and see that it's working. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I was still in the 710 ranges. So I gave the official mock 3 and 4. I got a 720 in the final attempt, right before the first attempt that I had to give. I got a
Mhm.
720, and my Verita score was kind of consistently at 710. Like it was not moving up from that. I don't know why. So just stuck at 710. I gave like 3 4 attempts. It was either seven. I think one time it went to 720, but otherwise it was 710. But I kind of recommend Veritas. Veritas I felt is a pretty good mock, and I have seen the same kind of response from a lot of people on the forum as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that is how I went for the first attempt. So these were the various mocks that I took before the first attempt.
Nice. And so, I mean, as I saw, also your quant score was all like 49 above in all your
Yeah,
attempts. So, what
yeah.
kind of struggles were you facing specifically with verbal? You were telling us
Uh-huh.
this different resources you used, but where
Yeah.
exactly were you facing an issue?
So I think it was mostly related to the base concepts, to be frank, Selby. Like in the
Mhm.
back of my mind, I still knew that, although I have mugged up a lot of theory in
Yeah.
terms from Ghosh, still when it came to the actual practical aspect of things, I felt that, I was maybe missing out on a few things. Like I still kind of, whenever, like before my third or fourth attempt, I was still struggling to understand the difference between that verb ing, verb ed, what was happening there, you know the hanging sentences, comma slice and all that, those kind of the normal things that we have to look for. I was still struggling a bit. I kind of felt active passive voice is something that was not getting into my head for some reason. It was I was struggling with that for a long time actually. But yeah, I think that is one very important thing that you have to realize. So one mistake that I had done, Shelby, was for the first and second attempt. Like I did the whenever I was working on sentence correction questions, I
Mhm.
kept on trying to solve the 700 plus questions. So that is one big mistake that I felt.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people end up doing even though they know it's not the right thing to do. But yeah, I just want to put that into the mind of everybody who's struggling with verbal. You have to go bottom up. Like you have to work down from the lower tier questions. So if you are confident that you can do the sub 600 problems well, you don't have to work on that. But
Mhm.
600 to 700 is a bracket that we have to work on. Like there is no getting away from that. Yeah, like that is something that really helped me. Like by the third attempt, when I started working on the Manhattan Gmat material. So that's what I really liked about Manhattan Gmat. They had broken it down into again like various sections like nouns, verbs, and so on. But the each section contains some practice problems that you have to solve and all that. Then I come back and I felt that the Manhattan one is a bit more polished in terms of, or not polished. I would say they were kind of concentrating on the various areas which are the common problems for various students. Like so, I felt that when I was going through the material, okay, this is something that I'm not sure of. Like
Yeah.
a number of the count questions, right? Like whether it's singular or plural. So those kind of questions, they had specific examples for that, and those kind of little things, but it helped me a lot. So those kind of things, and especially the point where I decided to actually work on 600 to 700 questions, because end of the day, I'm telling this to everyone, like, you don't get the 700 plus questions unless and until you solve the 600 to 700. So
Very true.
if you if you miss out on a couple of 600 to 700, it's going to impact your score. So that I think was the biggest turning point, Selby, for me to get to a 40 plus score in verbal. Like when I realized that I was actually struggling with the 600 to 700 part, and not actually, I should not be keeping on working on 700 plus, thinking that if I do a 700 plus, I would be able to do a 600 to 700. That's not right. That's not right at all.
It's
Like
the same thing for quant also. Like, and
yeah,
not
yeah,
only verbal, for quant as well. Yeah, I've
yeah,
mentioned this
exactly.
before. Yeah, that
Right,
makes
right,
sense.
right.
And
Yeah,
was
that was like a really real big turning point for me, like when I started working on, and I honestly can say that I have done, I think, almost all the 600 to 700 questions and 700 plus questions for sentence correction. Like I worked
mm,
on literally every official get question. So yeah, like I knew I was struggling. So that is one thing that we have to work on. Like if you realize one area that you're struggling in, then you have to put in that extra effort there. So yeah,
mm.
I try to do that. So, yeah.
And which section were you like mostly struggling? And were they all initially, or you were great at reading comp and CR, but your sentence correction was like pretty low? What was it for you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was, I would not say I was great at CR, but reading comprehension is something that I was comfortable with. Sentence correction, I was really bad. But reading comprehension, I used to get around, I think, uh, at least in the 80 plus ranges for reading comprehension right off the
Mhm.
bat. But I was in the 50 percentages in accuracy for sentence correction, and I think I was in the 60 to 70 for CR. So
Okay.
that was kind of my breakup when I started off. Sentence
Mm,
correction, I was really poor actually. Yeah, that kind of dragged the whole verbal down. Like I said, I started off with a 30, then a 35, and like 37 in the first attempt. So yeah, to get to that 40, which was my kind of like the target score, yeah, it took some work. Like it took some effort in terms of working specifically on sentence correction. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, I think
Gotcha.
that will be one key tip for. I think that's something that very commonly given tip that you have to work on the areas that you're struggling. But I just want to concentrate on that again, because you have to legit
No,
work on your problem areas. Yeah,
definitely, definitely. And
yeah,
for someone, I guess like by the way, this is my first debrief with someone on,
yeah,
on the GMAT club. So
yeah.
like just seeing someone who gave it 4 times, like it makes me think like right after you took your first test,
Hmm.
how did you jump back to to want to take your
Uh-huh.
second test? Of course, you said you were motivated, your parents were motivating you too, which is great.
Yeah.
But what were the specific things you did that kind of boosted your score? How did you review,
Hmm.
certain questions that you attempted? Did you have an error log? Want
Hmm.
to know more
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that?
right. So for the first attempt and pretty much the second attempt, I had used the same materials, Selby, to be frank, because I always thought the first attempt my score went down because of the GMAT online issues, like
Yeah.
the lagging and all that, and I thought that I can genuinely boost up the score if I work with the same material. So I again kept on working with Magoosh, but I started doing a lot more problems on GMAT club questions, and I
Mm,
started taking mocks again. So I did my the two official mocks. So pretty much the first and second attempt I went in the same route. Like I had done the same things, to be frank. Like I kept the Magoosh GMAT club and GMAT Ninja videos. That's pretty
mm,
much the materials that I used, and I was working on the official mocks as well as the Veritas prep mocks. And
mm.
one official, so but before the second attempt, in one official mock, I got a 750, and then I was like, okay, maybe I'm
Like,
there.
yeah,
Like,
let's do this.
yeah, I'm there right now. So then yeah, so that was at a sender, and it was actually a very smooth experience. So the sender one was actually pretty smooth. Like I went to Bangalore and I gave it, and it was a really good environment, and it was pretty quiet and everything. And I thought did a really good job. I got a 50-40 split. So in a good day, maybe 50-40 would have been a 740, I guess. But I have heard a lot of people tell me that. But yeah, it was not my day, maybe. Like I got a 730. So 740 was my target. If I had got a 740, maybe I would have right away stopped there. But
Yeah.
yeah. maybe it was for the better. Like later on, I anyways it turned out for the better. So yeah, so I got a 50-40 split. And then I honestly, to tell you, like I was kind of content there. I thought like I gave a genuine attempt. I had prepared everything that I could.
Mhm.
But then when I started talking to a few consultants about my target schools, I wanted to get into one of the top 10 at least. So they were the people, like a few consultants that I talked to, admission consultants. They were the ones who told me that that 740 makes a lot of difference. If
Mm.
you reach the 98 percentile, that versus a 730 is a 96, especially
Yeah,
for an overrepresented pool like us, like an Indian male engineer. It
that's like
makes
the
a lot of
worst.
difference. Yeah, it makes a lot of difference, it seems. So I was like, okay, I still maybe I'll give it one more shot. So that's how I got motivated for the third one. So I knew that for the third attempt, I had to do some things differently. Otherwise,
Mm.
there's no point. I have given two attempts using the same approach, and I have to do something differently for the third time around. So that's when I took up the Manhattan Gmat material, and I started concentrating specifically on sentence correction,
Mm.
hoping that the quant is something that I already have all covered and everything. So I
Definitely.
went ahead with the Manhattan GMAT material, tried working through it, and yeah, I've completed the whole sentence correction material, and I still kept on giving the mocks. So I had I think the third attempt is the one that I gave the least number of mocks. I think I just gave uh, two mocks or so. Like I think that I had a couple of mocks left in Veritas Prep. I just attempted that. That's all. That was again a 1 month period, but I just attempted two mocks. So because I was fairly confident that I could do better, I felt that I was able to solve a lot of GMAT club questions. And yeah, that is the place where I had the turning point of I should try attempting 600 to 700 more and not the 700 plus questions. So
Mm.
yeah, that area. Then I was kind of confident for the third attempt. So like I said, I did a couple of Veritas prep, and I think I had an official, or I maybe retook an official mock or something that I had attempted back really early. So, anyways, like I was again in the 730s only in that, but I felt I was confident that I would be able to do better on the exam day, which
Mm.
didn't turn out to be true. But although a lot of people told me that you have given three attempts and maybe it's time to call it quits, I felt
Yeah.
that I still could do better. And then I came across, finally, for the fourth attempt, I came across our very own GMAT club test. So, yeah, like I kept reading reviews on the forum about the quant being really good. Because what happened in
Mhm.
the third attempt is that my quant went to 49. So from
Yeah.
50, it became 49. So I was like, maybe all the concentration that I'm giving to sentence correction is actually bringing down my quant. Okay,
Mm.
so I thought which mocks should I take for the quant section, and I would genuinely recommend anybody who is trying to get that really excellent score in GMAT quant to actually take up GMAT club quant tests, because they are actually really difficult. Like
Yeah.
they if you yeah.
By the way, we're not paying hands to give us a
Yeah,
shout
yeah.
out.
No, no, these are genuine reviews. Like, yeah, I would honestly say the same thing about GMAT, the GMAT club verbal section. I will not give the same amount of appreciation because
It's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So yeah, these are genuine reviews. Like Shelby said, they are not asking me to tell this. So yeah, but yeah, so the one thing that I really liked, Selby, about the GMAT club test is that you could do it at a section level, right? So I had a full time job, and I was all these things I'm doing with a full time job, which actually took up like 8 to 9 hours of my day in the weekdays, and so most of my prep and I would spend like an hour or so every day, and in the weekends is what I was trying to push this through. And so I really like the fact that GMAT Club had this section-wise tests. So that is something that really helped me in terms of planning my day. I can take one test and actually see the results and go through the errors and still be done in like a 1.5 2 hours because I don't have to spend the whole 2.5 to 3 hours to take one mock test, right? So that kind of helped me. And I actually before the fourth attempt, uh, yeah, So
Someone did ask this, by
I
the
can
way.
see a question. Yeah. So GMAT Club quant test, I would ask anybody to not get disappointed, even if you get like a 47 or so, because it's actually really tough. I felt
Yeah.
they push you to the limit. Within the first 10 questions, when you do the actual GMAT, you would be getting maybe 600 to 700 questions and a couple of 700. But what I've seen in the GMAT Club test is the first 10 itself, you will get like 700 plus questions. But that never happens in the actual GMAT.
Oh,
But if you prepare with that mindset, I feel that you would be doing very well in the actual quant. So so to the question Mohit is having, I was having a score between, I think I've gone down till 45 or so in the GMAT Club test quant. And up to I actually I took like 14 times. So out of the 23 or so, I had taken it like almost every alternate day. I was taking it for the like a couple of weeks or so. I mean 3 4 weeks. So every alternate day I was taking a test.
mm,
And I've seen that fluctuating from 45. I was keeping on at 45 47 level actually for the first 6 7 attempts, and
mm.
then only I kind of cracked how to get a higher score. You have to actually skip questions. Like the quant is something that I really feel reluctant in skipping, because I'm kind of really confident about myself in quant. But because GMAT Club was pushing me to the limit, I actually started letting go of questions. And then I finally got to that 49, and finally I was able to get to the 50. And actually, I scored, I think, a couple of times I got to the 51, the perfect in GMAT Club quant as well. So that's when I was like really confident about quant. If I can get a 51 in GMAT Club test, I was like, can do this
Yeah, then you can
definitely
get a
in
51 in the actual.
the actual one. Yeah. So
Nice.
that's how it went about. And I actually tried. So okay, because they said like to give a genuine review about the GMAT Club verbal also.
Sure, go
I,
ahead.
I actually don't feel that is up to the mark, to be frank. I felt, especially the reading comprehension piece, I felt the
Mm.
sentence correction and CR is pretty good, but I have seen my GMAT Club verbal score. I had a 45 a couple of times, and then it went down to I think a 28 or so.
Oh,
So
nice.
so that was like a really big shock for me, like 28 and I was in verbal. But yeah, I think there were a few issues with a few questions. I had given a few feedbacks. One major issue that I felt with the GMAT Club verbal is that like the reading comprehension, in almost
Mm.
all the tests that I took like 7 or so tests for verbal as well. And in all of them, there was a fixed pattern for reading comprehension. That is, there are only 3 passages with 4 questions each. But I have
Oh,
taken the actual GMAT 4 times, and all the 4 times I got 4 different passages with 3 questions. So it didn't work the other way, and GMAT Club kind of prepares you for that one particular way, which is not actually what you see in the actual test. So that I felt was a big drawback in terms of verbal. So I would say that we'll not use GMAT Club verbal, but still, I would say GMAT Club test is definitely worth the money for the $80 that they are asking. Like you can still just prepare for the
yeah.
quant if you want to get that really excellent quant score.
Plus, I mean, if you usually join our Instagram lives or our YouTube lives, Evan's
Yeah.
always there giving out GMAT Club tests for free. If you get
Oh,
candies, for example, yeah, that happened once.
oh,
So
okay.
this is why we suggest watch our lives till the end. Maybe you'll get GMAT Club tests for free, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That will
But
be definitely something that to look out for. So I would genuinely suggest taking out the GMAT Club test, and especially also like Magush is something that helped me. So I would suggest if somebody is doing planning for self prep, a good starting point would definitely be Magush, I would say, because their videos are very extensive and they cover out a lot of basics. So yeah, I would suggest that as well. Yeah.
which mock test? I think which one was the closest to your verbal score though? Out of all the
Oh
ones
yeah.
you did.
So yeah, verbal one. I have to give a big. So this is something that I discovered really late actually. So if I'm given an option to take the mocks again, maybe I would prefer the Manhattan GMAT mocks over the Veritas one actually, because I
Mm.
just gave one free mock of Manhattan GMAT at the end, like right before my final attempt, and I got a 730, I guess, 49 and a 42. So the thing is, my verbal score was 42 in Manhattan GMAT, and the very next day I got a 42 in the actual GMAT. So Like I felt
Right.
that the Manhattan Gmat verbal is very close to the actual one that I faced. And
Mm.
one really interesting feature that I felt about the Manhattan GMAT analysis is they have a section in which once you do the test, you can actually see based on a question how has your actual score varied. Like you can see if you got this correct answer, how much have your score increased or decreased from the like in the 40 the in the 51 range. Like it has gone up
Mhm.
by 2 points. If you got a question wrong, it has gone down. So that's like an extra insight, right? Like I kind of like those kind of things.
Yeah.
So I came to know about it really late. But yeah, in case anybody else who is interested in these little minor things, if you want to look about it, I would suggest trying out the free mocks of Veritas and Manhattan, and then kind of deciding which one to go for you.
Very
Because
true.
if I'm to do it again, like I would prefer Manhattan over, because it's the same price. I think $50, but I think there is one extra test for Veritas. Like there is 7 for Veritas and 6 for Manhattan. But still, I would maybe prefer Manhattan over Veritas if I'm to do it again. So because I really like the way that they had the verbal section, as well as this extra feature of seeing how your score is changing, and that kind of gives you an extra insight. Yeah.
Hmm. No, makes sense.
Yeah.
We did have a question. Somebody asked actually about your critical reasoning. How did you
Okay.
improve your accuracy in CR? Because we talked about SC a bit
Right.
extensively.
Right.
So
Yes.
talk about
So
this.
when it came to CR, actually, the Magush materials had a really good way of how to do things, right? Like they had pretty much told me, they ask you to kind of form a assumption in your head right before going into the question and working with the actual question. So
Hmm.
it's a strengthening question. So before you read the options, try to think about the question and try to come up with an assumption on your own, and then
Yeah.
try to see if anything fits, right? So that it actually might not work out all the times, but what it helps out in is the way that you think about a question, right? Like that changes a lot, and you get a lot more perspective. And I
Hmm.
think one thing that helped me out is actually doing a lot of official guide questions, because I would suggest for verbal at least to just stick to official questions. Uh, like this is something that I would genuinely say, because there are a lot of different materials around, and I don't think everything is as accurate, because there is really difficult CR questions which I was never able to crack even after reading the solution. Like I was like still feeling that that's not the right answer.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you get to an official question, you feel that it's a different one. So um,
Hmm.
when I started working with a lot of official questions, you would actually set to see out some patterns. Like you would see that some questions keep on repeating, like cause and effect, like it's you are kind of over generalizing a few things like that. You start to notice, and you
Hmm.
especially some in the GMA Club forum at least, you will see that the experts call it out as like a pattern of questions. So then you realize these when you realize these patterns, then when you see a question in the same it'll not be definitely the same question, but you will
True.
understand it's at least the same pattern. So
Yeah.
that helped me a lot, actually. Like a few questions that I was struggling on, because I was kind of strong in strengthening and weakening. The assumption part is what I was struggling with. So that I started to work specifically on assumption questions in the critical reasoning. And then when I started doing a lot of questions, I started to see these kind of simple patterns that are emerging. And then I started to look for in the answers also, I started to look for those patterns, and that helped
Hmm.
me out to actually
Hmm.
go into that 80% range for CR as well. So I would say I worked on SC to get to that. SC was the biggest struggle. CR, I knew that I was weak on the assumption part,
Hmm.
so I worked on that specifically. So yeah, that helped me out. I
Nice.
hope it helps, Shweta. Yeah.
Yes, we do hope that helps, Shweta. But
Yeah.
yeah, now I think the main part of this entire session was, your online
Yeah.
experience. So you took it in your
Right.
first attempt, and then you took it in your fourth attempt. Is that so?
Correct. Yep. Yep.
Correct.
Right.
So, you had a bad experience, I presume, in your first attempt. Then you went to the center, and then you went to the center again. What made you want to go back to the online, experience? What went in
Yeah.
your head?
So that was kind of funny, actually, Selby. So what was happening was I didn't want to do that travel again. Like I said, for the sender one, I had to either travel 2 hours to a different sender that's from my place, or I have to go to Bangalore, which is like a 1 day travel, and I have to stay over and do that, take it from there. So I didn't want to indulge in that. And honestly, if everything was going well, I would still prefer Gmat online over the actual sender one. This is a personal preference because I'm really comfortable in my room, in the setup that is there, and I have been giving so many mocks from this same environment, and
Yeah.
I get really used to it, right? So I always genuinely felt that if there are no technical issues, I would have aced the GMAT online, is what I always kept telling myself. So yeah, because I genuinely felt that is true. And I thought, like, I have given two sender, I mean, the GMAT, actual GMAT attempts from the sender, and I didn't want to, honestly, didn't want to let a lot of people know that I'm going for a fourth attempt, just my family and everybody, because if I'm going somewhere, I would have to let my friends know to, drop me off at a sender and all that. I was like, you know what, let's keep it under the wraps. And let's try
Nice.
to let's try to give one more GMAT online. Let's hope that they would have corrected all the issues that I faced earlier, which I
Yeah.
was wrong. But yeah, so pretty wrong about. I still faced all the issues, but yeah, that's what kind of motivated me. A few things is I wanted to give it in a really comfortable environment, because the third attempt I actually struggled with the sleep and the travel and everything, and I didn't want to go through all of that again. And I wanted to give some like at a place where I'm really comfortable with, which is my room. And yeah, that's the main reason that I took that up.
Did you face the same issue both in your first online exam and your second,
Yeah,
or there was something
pretty
different?
much. Pretty much. Like, so, the first time around, I thought that I had connected to a different internet connectivity, which is kind of dedicated to the system, to the
Mm,
test. Like, I had set up a small internet dongle of sorts, and I had connected that just for the test, and I tried to do that from there. So I had not used that setup earlier. So I always, whenever in the first attempt, when I was lagging or struggling with anything, I always thought it's something to do with my internet connectivity. So
mm,
that was my first genuine reaction, and I thought, like, there's no point in letting the proctor know about it. Like, he will just put it out as an internet issue and all that. So I
yeah.
kept going through the whole thing, and I finished up the first attempt. But what I did differently for the second one is, before I started off with the test, I actually asked the proctor upfront, like, if I am to face any issues. I did that last time around. If I am to face any issues related to lagging, would you be able to help me out? I kind of asked him out of that, and I asked him that, and he said yes. Actually, like, that was kind of surprised, and he said, I think this is something that they faced a lot, maybe. So
Mm,
he right away said, yeah, just let me know. I'll be able to help it out.
yeah.
And I started off with the quant section for the second time, and it actually went smoothly for me for the first few questions. And I was like, okay, maybe that was like a one-time glitch, and it was actually my internet issue. And
Mm,
this time around, I might not be facing any of that. But yeah, that was a really short-lived happiness. By the fifth question, the lagging issue started again, just like last time. But I was actually a really good zone when it came to quant, and I still didn't fully trust that he would be able to help the proctor. I was kind of skeptical, and I didn't want to, interrupt what I'm doing, because I thought that if he's not able to help, and like if I lose a few seconds, then it's better off to not have that in the head, right?
mm,
Just I'll just work through this. That's what I
mm,
told myself, and I just kept on plowing through the questions. Like, I was still ahead in the timing at that point, and I kept doing it. But what was happening was, for every alternate question, like when I tried to press next and click the yes, it took me at least 5 seconds, and it went up to, like, I think 10 to 15 seconds to go to the next question. And the timer was not stopping, it was just keeping on going, right? So that 10 seconds for every alternate question is actually like 2.5 minutes. So
mm,
I think that was genuinely a lot of time. Like, anybody who is preparing for GMAT would know that, like, 2 minutes
yeah.
when it comes to the whole test is like a really lot of time.
Mm,
And I had to actually skip the 30th question because of that. Like, I would have been so, because I got a perfect score, I'm telling all this. Like, if it was a different story, I would be reacting to this whole scenario pretty differently.
definitely.
But but yeah, like, I had to skip the 30th question, and like, the things really got started to go south on the last question. So I think most of the
God.
people would know, especially in the quant section, everybody, all the experts would tell you to attempt all questions, right? Like you have to attempt the 31 to get a good score. So
Mm,
I genuinely felt I did really well, although I skipped a question in the 30th. I felt, and I was fairly confident about the 31st answer. When I
mm,
clicked the yes and clicked the submit, section or something, like move to the next
yeah.
section or whatever, it just froze. The whole screen just froze. And
Oh
then I
God.
was like, okay, now there is nothing I can do. Like there is, but at least I got to the section, but I was kind of freaking out because I was kind of scared. Maybe, the last question might not be counted, or I don't know what's going to happen. Right? Like there was like 45 seconds left. So I was
Mm,
kind of happy that it froze at that 45-second mark. But it actually froze. Like it just froze there. And then I called out the proctor. Obviously, there's no way to, nothing that I could do. And I told the proctor, now there is, as you, I think he was already noticing the lagging issues. Like, so he told me that, I was noticing that you were having some issues. I was waiting
mm,
for you to call, and, because I didn't tell anything, he didn't interrupt me also. And then both of us started work. So he paused the exam. So yeah, this is for anybody who doesn't know. When you just inform the proctor, he right away pauses the exam, but I think sometimes it takes like a 10-15 seconds for his command to reach our system. So this is for anybody who is planning to take Gmat online. So in case something like this happens, and you are actually getting a Gmat person on the call,
mm.
so they have the ability to give you back this lost time. So that is a very important point actually. So the if the not the proctor, but if a Gmat personnel joins the call, like an IT personnel, he joins the call, he has actually the ability to put back the time what you have lost because of these technical issues. Not like
That's
over the time like 2 minutes or anything, but within the gap that you ask
mm,
the proctor to pause the exam and when it actually genuinely paused. So you just have to tell it to the proctor right away, I believe. So my proctor was very uh, happy
nice.
to help in that aspect. Yeah. So I mentioned to him, specifically on the time that I have lost and everything. And when the Gmat person joined the call, he explained it to the person, and he was, I think it was like 10-15 seconds, but still, they are happy to put in that time back. Just make sure that you bring it to the attention of the proctor. Yeah. So coming back, so he told me that I will pause the exam and I'll get the Gmat person. So he told me 5 minutes, and 5 minutes became 15 minutes, and the proctor is still not here. I mean, the person is still not here. I waited another 30 minutes. I think it was close to an hour by the time that guy joined.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that was a really, really tense time actually.
Yeah, I can
I,
assume.
so yeah, I was kind of keeping my cool, thinking about this is not being counted. Like that is
Mm,
one. Like it's a pause exam, right? So I kind of
mm.
thought of it as like a section break that I got. Uh, a very extended section break, which is supposed
Very
to be 8 minutes,
extended.
which is supposed to be 8 minutes. I think the biggest part that helped me was I got done with the section, right? So that kind of
Mm,
helped me, like that. Like at least
mhm.
mentally, I was like, I'm done with quant, which is my strong section, and I have done a pretty good job. Like, keep your calm, think about what are the various things that you have to write in AWA, like something
Yeah,
something that is not impacting you directly right now. Like, what is the opening I mean, what is the opening sentence? What is the conclusion? The things that I have not done for AWA. I was just trying to recollect all of those things, and I was trying to keep my cool. Nothing like it's a break. Like think about it as a
yeah,
break. Like you're taking a Gmat club test. Your quant is over. You're waiting.
exactly.
You're taking taking a break before you do the verbal. So things like that. That's what I was trying to keep telling myself. Yeah, and I think it was almost an hour by the time he came in. And yeah, finally he got on the call and he started trying out a few things. Like so, basically they take the whole control of your system, and yeah, I think I can maybe point out a few things that he tried to do. The first thing that he mentioned was whether I had a VPN because on. So I think that is the most common reason for these kind of issues. Maybe that's the reason why he kind of brought it up right away. He told me
Mm,
that if you have a VPN switched on, it might cause issues. So I told him no, I didn't have any of those switched on.
yeah,
And then he tried to go into the control panel, programs and features, and try to turn on a Windows feature. I can tell you the exact one, but the And point is that also didn't work actually. So he went into some .NET and he turned on the latest version of .NET, which didn't help in the end of the day. But he did those two things. He checked for my VPN and he did this one minor thing. And he asked no. This was actually the difficult part. This is where I actually got tense. So what he asked me to do is he asked me to start the verbal, and he told me he and the proctor both would be on the call. And he asked me to start off with my verbal section and do the first question. And if the response is not right, we'll pause the exam again. So that kind of got me tensed up because I was like, this is my actual test. Like I can't play around with the questions like that. So because he is asking me to genuinely answer the question. So and these people who were on the computer, they still had the access. So the mouse key was moving around. So it was a really weird place to be. And
Did you get it right?
yeah, eh?
Did you get it right though?
I'm not sure. I think I might have like that. You don't know about each genuine questions, right? But I took, I think, around 2.5 minutes to actually answer that. Like, so I don't think I would have taken that much if I didn't have all this mouse moving around and all that on the screen. But anyways, like when I tried that again, the issues were still persistent. Like it didn't solve the issues to be precise. Like so, yeah. Then he again paused the exam. So there again, I saw that I lost like 15 seconds or so, and I called that out to the proctor right away that, I told you to pause the exam and it took like 15 seconds for it to react. So please, keep that in mind when you start off the exam next time. And yeah, then he did a couple of things. I think this is the things that helped. So first, he went into my Windows Defender firewall and he turned off my firewall settings. The Windows firewall, which is I think by default on for everybody. He turned off the Windows firewall for I think there are two networks, both the public and private networks. He turned it off, and then he actually uninstalled my ES Secure browser and installed a older version.
Oh,
So yeah, it's actually weird. Uh, I had the latest version here. I had 27.7 version, I guess, and he installed 27.3. So yeah. Uh, anyways, after that, both of these changes were done. He asked me to take it again, and yeah, uh, thankfully, things started responding properly after that. And yeah, I got on with my test with a much more relieved mindset and went through the whole verbal section, which turned out to be really good. So yeah,
oh,
I'm talking in
as we noticed.
I'm talking here like this because it all turned out well. Like, but I can genuinely see a time when all this would have gone south really easily, even for me. Like I tried somehow, managed to keep my cool this time around. But yeah, all of this could have easily gone south at any point. The funniest thing is that anybody who's taking a GMAT online test, I just want to warn you guys, just let your parents know that it's not maybe a 3 hour exam, it might be a 5 hour exam. So because my
Oh my
parents were
gosh.
freaking out, like like I gave the exam at like around 7 p.m. The India time, and like so my mom and dad, they all know that it's like a 3 hour exam. And so when it became 10:30 and I'm still not downstairs, it was 11, 4 hours got over. So they were freaking out. Like my mom came up to the door and she was keeping the ear on the door
Oh,
and trying to see if there is some sound coming. My dad is walking through the other side. Like, so I can hear the voices. Okay. So I'm like, oh my God, I hope they don't come into the room. Like, I don't want,
yeah, because
I
then
don't
your
want.
exam will be over if they get in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that will be the end of the exam, right? So I was like, oh my God, I just hope they don't come into the room. And I was like, for some bad luck, I had forgot to lock the room as well. I was like, I hope to God that they don't push the door open. Like, yeah, and in the very desperate, my mom even called my phone. Like, I don't know what, like, she was kind of freaking out, to be frank. Like, she thought, like, maybe I passed out with the pressure of the exam or something.
Oh,
Like, yeah, it's been like five. So I wouldn't blame them, like, because it was already like 11:30, like 12 around, and I'm still not coming down. Like, it's a 5 hour, it became 5 hours, right? So
mhm.
They were
But
genuinely freaking out. Like,
if I'm not mistaken, don't you have like two breaks where you can actually exit your room or use a washroom break?
I didn't think about informing my parents at that juncture. Like,
Oh
I was
God,
kind of trying to get done with this because I was also in a really bad headspace, right?
of
So I was kind
course.
of trying to get this done. But yeah, parents really had a big scare. They thought like I genuinely passed out in front of the system or something like that happened. Like, couldn't blame them too. Like, it was my fourth attempt and maybe I did really bad, and they thought like, I just passed out in front of the system. I don't know what they were
I
thinking, but
can
they were
imagine.
really, yeah. Anyways, things turned out well. So that way, everybody was happy.
Mm,
Yeah. So I think that is uh, that was one very weird experience, but I hope it will be helpful. So, like I said in that post that I had written, so one tip that I would suggest to anybody who is planning to take
mm,
GMAT online is maybe go with the conventional, the older format of section order. That is, first take the AWA, then the IR, and then the verbal and quant, which is actual, quant and verbal, which is the genuine section that you care about. So, because
mm,
the biggest
mm.
point there is you can do all the troubleshooting in the IR section, which doesn't actually impact your scores. Because, like in my case, when they were troubleshooting in the verbal, my heart was beating really fast. Like,
Oh,
it was not, it was not an easy place to be because verbal I had worked it so much, I don't want to lose any points over there. So I would genuinely suggest if you anybody is planning to take GMAT online, maybe go with the section order because it's
mm,
still quant verbal that is still there. Like so, I know it might be hard for a few people. They have practiced a lot, but to troubleshoot, it's always better if you have the IR section upfront. Like you
yeah.
can just take up the IR, go through a couple of questions. If you are facing an issue, just pause the exam, ask the proctor to solve it out. Just do it right away. Like don't wait for like 10 questions and then do it at the 11th or 12th or something because it's IR, don't matter. So
Yeah.
yeah, you just do like a
Well,
couple of questions. And
I
if
think it
you,
does matter, right? And so
yeah,
for some
like
courses,
obviously, yeah, some places, but yeah, like couple of questions you can do and you can figure out if there's an issue, and then you can just call the proctor, ask him to pause the exam. Even if you lose a bit of time over there troubleshooting, you don't lose a lot.
mm,
Yeah, and one other very important thing is I believe the IR is not adaptive. It's a set number of questions as well. So
yeah.
even if you get a question wrong during the troubleshooting, it's not going to impact the other questions. The thing with
Mm,
verbal and quant is that it's adaptive as well, right? So yeah,
mm.
that is one. I think it was put in the
Crazy
banner as well.
experience.
Section tip. So yeah, that is the section tip that I have that is put up on the banner. Like I would suggest if I am to retake a GMAT online, I would definitely go with the section order. That is
Mm,
AWA, IR, and then the actual
content verbal.
quant and verbal. Yeah,
So all in all, like as far as I understood, at least with the online exam, if anything goes haywire, the proctor is there to help you basically. So
exactly. Yeah,
you can rely on them. They have seen these issues happen time and time again. So,
correct.
for someone who wants to take the online exam and they're scared, you know, keep calm throughout. I think
Yeah,
that's the major thing.
honestly, yeah, I think that's it, Selby. Like you just have to be mentally prepared for this. That's it.
Right.
Like so, I would just say that. GMAT online is if I'm to retake GMAT again, I would still prefer GMAT. If GMAT online which doesn't have any problems, definitely. But yeah, that over a GMAT center because it's more about you are any test like this. It's all about how you are. You're comfortable in the environment. You don't have to
Very
take
true.
out any time for the travel, and you're in
Very true.
that right set mindset, right? So because of that, that's the reason why I would prefer GMAT online. And yeah, like you said, the proctor is there to help. And yeah, the way that I figured out my issue was not an internet issue. It's actually I just asked the proctor that whether he is able to see my video and hear me out properly. And he
Yeah.
said both of those are working really fine. So I was 100% sure that it's not my internet issues. So I told
Mm,
him, like man, like this is an issue from your side. Try to
yeah.
figure out what is happening. And like I think I did give it two times, right? Like both the proctors are actually really helpful and really friendly. I think I don't know if it is. I have seen a lot of other people also who said similar experience, but I think there
Yeah.
were a few experiences that went bad as well. But yeah, like most of the cases, I think they are really helpful. So this is not to ask
Deep.
anybody to not this is not a bad mouthing of Gmat online. Like there are issues, but those are solvable. That's what I'm trying to say. Like you just have to keep the cool head, and if you genuinely feel that you will do well if you are staying at home, uh, then go for Gmat online. Like it's a really good place to be, and you have you will get a good experience. It may be like, I think there are a lot of people who had a good Gmat online experience without any of these issues as well. So yeah,
Mm,
uh,
mm.
that can also happen for you. Like if you're one of the lucky ones, you could get the Gmat online without any issues as well. But yeah, even if you have issues, just keep your cool. And the proctor is, like you said, the proctor is there to help. Like it might take an hour, but yeah, they are going to help definitely.
Can
Yeah.
we also quickly discuss about your AWA and your IR strategy? Like, how long did it take to,
Okay.
prepare for that, and what all materials did you use?
Yeah. So IR was kind of fully dependent on the Magush material. They had a
Mm-hmm.
really good set of questions, and no, I didn't work on the questions. I was mostly working on their strategy. So I think that is the place where I actually learned that IR is not adaptive. So that was like a huge shock to me. Like I always thought even IR was adaptive, but I understood that it's a set of 12 questions, and they told me to break down it into 2.5 minutes per question, and there are a few questions I think people who have given it would know it. There are a few bundled questions, like one question, one kind of like an RC question, like you have one same section that would be there for multiple questions. So try to spend time on those kind of questions, and if you feel that you're falling behind on time, just skip one question. Like it's not going to
Yeah,
impact your section a lot. Uh,
yeah.
I had an issue with IR actually. Like that was from my part. My computer just went down. Like powered off. Like that was fully
Oh
on me.
God,
Like nothing to. Yeah. It was a really bad experience.
yeah,
Second
I could
Gmail.
see that.
Like
Goodness.
it just powered off, and I had to switch back the power on, and I lost like a couple of minutes. So I couldn't attempt the last two questions of IR, and I
Oh
got like a
God.
7 on IR. So it's okay. I was like, okay, like
I like how
one
you're
mark.
like, oh, I missed a few questions here and there, but I still got a great score.
No, that IR, so I had got an IR 8 a couple of times. So IR I had prepared actually, and I thought I'll get an 8, but I couldn't attempt the last two questions. I was like, I got this IR is still IR. Like you don't see that in the first section. So I was like, "Oh, it's all right." AWA, I mostly worked with one. I think that there is a material called AWA 6.0. A skeleton that is given in the GMAC club itself. I forgot the member
Chinese
who.
bird?
Yeah,
Chinese
I
bird?
think. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think
yes,
he
yes,
is the
yes,
guy.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. That and Magus I used for. They had given a few ideas like what are the things that you should look for as to attack the argument. So
Mm,
they had like six different ideas that you should think about when you see an argument. So that
mm.
also helped. So those two things, that's the things that those are the materials that I use for AW and IR.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, I mean, I guess I covered most of the questions here, but we can go quickly to some of the questions we did receive.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna pull
Yeah.
one up. If you, yeah. So how was your approach for the first 7 to 8 questions as compared to the later ones? Also, did you face any timing issues at the end and verbal? And what's your advice on managing time and last verbal question?
Yeah. So I genuinely didn't try to do any extra effort for the first questions. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I always approached it as blocks. Like I tried to see. Uh, and one thing that I saw, Adit, was like most of the time the first 10 questions would be ideally slightly easier, comparatively easier to be frank, because they're still putting you in the blocks and where you are at in the which range you are coming in. So
Yeah.
I've seen ideally those questions are slightly easier. So at least in quant I've noticed that. In verbal I have seen some questions that are tough come up in the beginning as well. But yeah, I don't try to spend a lot of time in the first questions. Like I try to attempt it in blocks. Like in verbal block of 6 for 10 or 11 minutes, and when it came to quant block of 4 for 8 minutes. So
Mm.
that's all that I had in mind. Like if I overran a particular question in the previous section, I made sure that I skipped by skipping or doing something slightly quicker. I made up for that in the next block. So that's what I tried doing. I did not spend a lot of time in the first questions specifically, but I've seen some people mentioning that the first 10 are really important in quant. But
Yeah.
to be frank, I have got a 50 with one question wrong in the first section, I guess. One question wrong in the first section, I believe. I when the one ESR I took for the first GMAT offline the sender one that I had taken, I saw that my first quarter I had a question wrong. So I've seen material in which or a video in which somebody was explaining that was an issue, but I don't know. Like, but I got all the remaining questions wrong in the last two quarters. Maybe that helped me out a lot. But yeah, like I don't think you should get really depressed if you got one question wrong in the first time. That
True.
doesn't matter. Like I genuinely believe if you can plow through the rest of the questions and do really well in the remaining questions as well, you would be getting there. Like
Very good. Yeah.
that is what I feel. That's what I've seen. Like even yeah, even for
Also,
quant, yeah,
sorry. No, I was trying to say that like it's hard to like understand the way the GMAT really works. How
exactly.
they how they
It's
predict the
very
score.
weird.
It's very weird. Yeah. So I mean, there are a lot of people who mentioned try this approach, try this approach. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's majorly have your basics covered. Right.
Yes.
Also the
Just try to
pacing.
do the questions. Yeah. try
Yeah.
to
And
try to yeah. I would say for me, if I am to give the four most important things that is there, I would say pacing would be my top priority.
mm,
Like make sure that you attempt all the questions, and second would be understanding the various problem areas. Like for me, I knew that sentence correction was the problem area for me. Right off the
yeah.
bat, I knew that I had to put in the extra effort. So that
Yeah.
would be my second tip. Like the major section that you're struggling on, like if it's in quant, whether it's problem solving or data sufficiency, you are struggling on something, you have to work on that. Data sufficiency actually was something that was really new to me, and I had to work on that as well for quant. So yeah, that is one other thing. And the third one would be to actually understand, like not only the like these are the big sections, right? Like sentence correction or problem solving or data sufficiency, whatever it is. But you have to actually see which area or like which subsection under that, which actual idea is that you're struggling in. Like so maybe so this is specifically for quant. When I started taking all the gmat club quant tests, right? Like when and you see the overall questions, you see that I was able to see that I was actually struggling in the divisibility and ratio part, which was kind of surprising for me because I thought that was the one that didn't have a lot of formulas or anything involved. You're just figuring out if it's greater than or lesser than and things like that. I thought that is something that I was really good at, but GMAT Club, that test, and when I did that, I saw that I was only getting like a 50% or a 40% accuracy and all in that. So that was like a
mm,
big eye opener for me, and I started genuinely working on only on that sections. Like I started working pretty much on only that question types, and that
yeah.
helped me. So that would be my third tip. And finally, I would say take really quality mocks. So you have to keep working on the mocks, the Veritas prep, whatever you choose, Manhattan, Yamada, Veritas prep,
Mm,
and use the official mock really well, because official mocks are definitely the best source for you. So
right.
I didn't work on any GMAT prep questions from the GMAT club as well. Like I always filter for official guide and just did those questions. So that is something that I would suggest, because to keep the scores as
Mhm,
pure as possible when it comes to GMAT prep. So that is
mhm.
something that I had done. Yeah, one or two questions is fine. Like the ones that comes up in GMAT Ninja videos, I feel it's okay. But the you have to just keep your mind kind of clean when it comes to that. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
those things, like, and finally, yeah, the other one as well, the 600 to 700. Like always try to go bottom up. Like that is something that I learned by the third attempt only.
Yep.
Never stick to 700 plus. Like
Yep.
more
That's a
genuine
red
thing.
flag.
Yeah, yeah, that's a red flag. I saw your reels about that. Yeah, that's a really big red flag to be fair.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really big red flag. You should not be doing just 700 plus questions. Like it's not a guarantee that if you do the 700 plus questions in SC, you will be able to do the 600 to 700. Like same for quant as well. You have to work on the 600 to 700 plus. 600 to 700 and then work your way up to 700 plus. That is the
Yeah.
only way to go about it. Like that is one thing that I would definitely change in my strategy if I'm to do it like a one time all over again. All right.
But oh my god, like I think we've covered like a
Yeah.
lot in this session,
Yeah.
and we also went a little over time, which is all right. But yeah, like I think if anyone has questions for Hans, you can definitely reach out to him,
Yes.
PM him on the forum. His forum name is Hans95, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, like Hans, I mean, if you want to mention any other place where people would want to connect with you, you can. This is the
Yeah.
time for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Selby said, if there is any other questions, you can just PM me on Gmat Club, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. You can find my name, Hans Anthony. I don't think it's a very common name, so you'll be able to find me kind of easily. I hope. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Yeah, or if you guys are comfortable, yeah, I think those two platforms would be pretty good enough. Like I
Yeah.
would be active on Gmat Club, so yeah, you can definitely PM me on Gmat Club. Yeah.
Yeah, as I mentioned also yesterday in the comments, PMing in Gmat Club is the new sliding into the DMs. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely PM on the Gmat Club. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
All right.
thanks, Hans, once again.
Yeah. I think it's been a long session. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Selvi, for having me over
Definitely,
here. Yeah.
definitely, and like hope you I hope everything
Yeah.
works out in the end for you. But yeah,
Right. Right.
thanks a
Thank
ton
you.
and take care.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Selvi. Yeah.